Let's talk about Guitarscape. I've been listening to the album a fair amount, given a full listen through. Why? I'll start with Springboard. Why is that chosen as the first single?
Well, for no particular reason, more than I just wanted to show that I'm stretching out, and I'm not in a kind of hurry, a little gap. There's a bit of guitar. Now I got a whole sort of platform there. It was difficult to know what track to put first. I mean, maybe it should have been Hailstorm. I don't know, but we just chose that because it was a more chunky track.
It's a good sounding song, and of course, there's as you talked about in some of the other interviews, there's the three spring songs. Did you ponder at any point, because this came to me as I'm listening through and comparing especially those three because of the title, just that comparison, and going, could those have been a suite, or how did you come about those three that have similar titles?
On two levels. First of all, they were originally quite short tracks and very kind of simple. There was just a statement, and maybe it didn't change very much. And I had three pieces called Spring 1, 2, and 3. So I thought, well, I don't know where they're going, but somebody gave me an idea, and I kind of moved them around and thought about them in a completely different way, instead of being like a one-off event. But maybe this was a kind of landscape I could use, and I could stretch out, because those are the three tracks that have one similarity about them, is that they're all very kind of continuous. They don't really go on to lots of different musical sections like several, if not most of the other ones do. They have other sections they go to. They're very much allowing me to open up, to improvise in a more modal way.
Mm-hmm. You've also talked about the keyboard providing inspiration for these songs. Is there any particular, I don't know, any synth part, keyboard part that was most, I guess, maybe most inspirational, or one that really jumped out at you and you went, okay, I got to create something from either this preset or this knob that I turn and got this sound out of this keyboard?
Exactly. Upstream comes to mind, because when I came across that sound, I thought, oh, that's interesting. Kind of these spread chords come in with a lovely faint, but there's lots of interplay with the way that the keyboard develops those chords as they come in and they go out again. So yeah, once I got that down, I thought, oh, that's going to be really, really nice. So I used the volume pedal on the guitar pretty consistently across the guitar. I added to that, and also I didn't add anything else. There's no rhythm, so I like the exceptions to rules, if you like. And on this album you get maybe three tracks. There's no drums, there's just this musical interplay, and so I like those opportunities. But Spring was another sort of concept of music as well. So I've allowed myself to spread springs out in the album. In other words, you don't get Springboard and then the next spring. So they're kind of used to kind of give a foundation to the album.
You mentioned the interplay of instruments, keyboard, guitar, and then your son Dylan's drumming. How does the recording process and arrangement process of that go? What comes, I guess, maybe last, because I know the keyboard came first in a lot of ways. What comes last? How does the arrangement go for this particular set of two people, three main instruments?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Not one I'm asked very often, so I like it even more because of that. But, okay, so there's maybe, let's say, 3 to 4 processes. Let's see how I get on. The first one is, invent those keyboard parts, which are the foundation of the album. That's the first phase. So once I've done that, I need to kind of edit those and make them into tracks that are complete. So anyway, that's an interim stage. But the next stage is, once I've got the model of the keyboard that I can work on the hard drive, then I'm going to add guitar. So I do a lot of that, adding guitars, going off on tour, coming back, making ES record, coming back. And I keep kind of coming back to this record. Now, then the next thing is, once they're really quite presentable and I've used some sort of rhythmic device to keep it going, if there is one at all, then Dylan will then add the drums, and we'll start completing tracks with him as I'm finalizing the last tracks that I've got to add to it. And then, but the mix is kind of the final stage, because once you've mixed it, and this is available in Dolby Atmos as well, so we've mixed it that's a careful thing that we love doing, you know. So that's like the final time when you've got a chance to say up, down, left, right, you know,
Right.
and that's when you sign off.
How long did the whole process take from origination to completion?
Well, most probably around 2 years, but, you know, interspersed with, you know, all these other things that I do. So, yeah, it was my back burner project, or it was my lead solo project while I was doing Yes, so to speak. So I didn't mind how much I went away. I knew I could still come back and I'd have a reference to carry on doing Guitarscape.
I mean, we're under 2 months from the release of the album, so I don't want to already put the legacy on the album right after it just came out. But your canon is, I mean, obviously quite extensive. Where does it fit in? How would you describe it, and how do you quantify it within both your solo oeuvre and, well, I mean, basically everything else you've done with all the other bands in which you've been a part?
Well, you know, this is another, I feel this is another statement, you know, of my mood and the way my music kind of leans, you know, towards this direction. But you most probably won't, you know, I'm not about to do a Guitarscape 2 because I think, I've done Guitarscape, that was really nice. So basically I will still, you know, have other projects that have got interesting twists from where this goes. But this seems to be a continuation of my instrumental albums, you know, like Quantum Guitar and, you know, the other ones I've made. Then I like to see that I'm, you know, not overdoing instrumentals, but getting back to them in a way, because, you know, I do work a lot on songs, you know, for the band. So it gives me a chance to have that space.
To kind of go full circle, and I started with Why Was Springboard as the first single. But there are certain tracks that, at least to my ear, stood out a little bit more. Like I like the guitar tone in Suma, for example. There was a little bit of jazz guitar sound. And then, of course, you're using all of your styles throughout this. Which song of all of these would you most want to point someone to listen to as like, okay, not necessarily the signature song, but pay attention to this one? Who would you say that to a listener for this album?
I think it would be Secret Mission, because that's one of the latter tracks we added, and that seems to be that was a conclusion of the album, if you like. It's not the last track on the album, but it's in the middle somewhere, 5 or 6, and basically that's a good indication of it's got some of the lightness in, that we use, but also a little of the firmness too.
All right. That song, all the songs are great on this. It was an enjoyable listen, and anyone else should give it a listen to. Guitarscape, Steve Howe, out now. Thank you for chatting about this in this chat with us, and all the best going forward.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks very much. Good luck to you. Bye.